Hi guys, here is lesson 90 for course 3. The lesson title is sets. A set is a collection of elements. Anything can be an element. It can be a number, it can be an ordered pair when we're graphing, it can be a variable, it can be a geometric figure, different shapes. When we write a set, we often represent them with brackets. So brackets are the squiggly parentheses. You will also usually see an ellipsis when you're dealing with the set. An ellipsis is a ... and those just mean that your set continues without end. You wouldn't want to write all of the odd integers, for example, so you would use ... So let's say we were going to write the set of odd integers. We would start with our squiggly bracket. We would write ... and I'm going to start with -5, then -3, -1, +1, +3, +5, ... and end with a set of brackets. You will see a funny notation in your book when you're dealing with sets. I did not see any of this when I was going through ALEKS and looking at the example problems, so make sure that you note this notation. If you want to indicate an element of a set, we use a symbol like a curved E. So the word element starts with an E. So if you see a large E like this, that means that that thing is an element of the set. If something is not an element of the set, you would draw the large E with a slash through it, just like we would for not equal to, and that means that that element is not a part of the set. So if we were talking about rational numbers, remember rational numbers are numbers that terminate or end, or numbers that have a repeating pattern. So let's say I asked you if the number 3 is a rational number. So you would say that 3 is an element, oops, don't do it that way. You would say that 3 is an element of the set of rational numbers, and then you would end with a squiggly bracket. If we were talking about, let's say, the square root of 3, remember that's a really long decimal that doesn't have a pattern in it, we would say that 3 is not an element of the set of rational numbers, and we would end with the squiggly bracket. You could also graph all of these on a number line, just like normal. So if it asked you to graph the set of, whoops, sorry, just knocked over the tripod there. All right, let's say it asked you to graph a set, and it listed like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? You could draw a number line and label it 2, 4, and then you would just put a dot on each point of your set. We also have sets that relate to each other in various ways, and this is where the notation can get a little funky. So we have something called a subset, and a subset is like a smaller version of a larger set. Smaller version of a larger set. And so we use this notation where we would say set A is a subset. It looks like a spread out U of B. So A is a subset of B. So if we were talking about quadrilaterals, we could say, for example, that rectangles are a subset of quadrilaterals. Rectangles are a subset of quadrilaterals. All right, your book on page 601 has some really funky looking letters. So they give like a boldish type N, which means counting or natural numbers. They have a funky looking Z, which represents integers. Remember, integers are positive and negative numbers. they have a funky Q that stands for rational numbers. And they have a funky looking R, which stands for real numbers. And so we're going to use Venn diagrams, and you will get some practice with these on ALEKS with Venn diagrams to illustrate relationships among sets. So if we were talking about our notation up here, where set A is a subset of set B, we could draw a Venn diagram. And so in this example, B, or quadrilaterals, would be our large circle, and every rectangle you ever come across is a quadrilateral, so A is a subset of B. All right, there's one other type of notation that you need to know for this, and it is where sets intersect and where sets have a union. So if you think about an intersection of a street intersection is where two things come together. So you might see the notation A with a large looking N, and then B. This is the intersection of sets A and B. All right, so let's say we were talking about rectangles and rhombuses. All right, so if this is our rectangle circle and this is our rhombus circle, then the intersection, or things that are rectangles and rhombuses, would be squares. All right, so the intersection of sets A and B, in this case, if A is rectangles and B is rhombuses, the intersection would be squares. We also have something called a union, and that is when we combine things. So if you think about a union like a marriage, it's where you bring everything together. So this is the union of sets A and B. All right, so it's where all of the things would be combined. All right, so let's look at this with, with a list of numbers, just to make it a little bit more applicable. So if A is the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, and B is the numbers and B is the numbers 2, 4, 6, 8. Let's say we wanted to find the intersection of sets A and B. Remember, intersection is where they cross or intersect. So we're looking for what do they have in common. So the answer for the intersection of A and B would be the numbers 2 and 4, because those are the only numbers that are in both A and in both B. But if we were looking for the union of A and B, that would be every number that you see, because a union is when everything is brought to the table. So everything you see. You only have to list each thing once. So we have a 1, we have a 2, we have a 3, we have a 4, we have a 6, and we have an 8. All right? So the other symbol that you might see is called the null set or the empty set. And so let's say they had nothing in common. If we had set A was 1, 3, 5, and set B was 2, 4, 6, and I asked you to find the intersection of A and B. Remember, that's what they have in common. They have nothing in common, so there's two ways that you can write it. One is a set of brackets with nothing written in between them, or you could write a 0 with a line through it, which means empty set. All right, so make sure you take a look at your ALEKS questions. I believe there are 5 of them from today's lesson. And if you do not understand what it's asking, please read the explanation to help you figure it out. Thanks. Have a great day.